Hello, everyone, and welcome to the midweek program at the JC Raulston Arboretum. My name is Blake, and I'm the education assistant here at the Arboretum. Today, we are in the Plantsman's Woods because it offers a lovely little view of the color trials, which will be the focus of our program today. In the past, every year, we've gone out in the color trials and tried to show you all some of the plants out there, but due to technological restraints and limitations, we couldn't really ever get close up to the plants and actually show you the plants. So what we did this year was we last Friday came out here and filmed ahead of time so that we could showcase some of the plants specifically, show off their features and talk about them a little bit more in depth. And so for our program today, I will be playing that recording of our pre-recorded foray into the trial garden. Once the pre-recorded segment is over, we have Bernadette here with us in person, and she can go over, we'll do Q&A at the end. So if you guys have any questions about the specific plants that we go over in this presentation, you can ask them, and it'll be a good time. So stick around towards the end for the Q&A.
Okay, today we're here in the garden at the trial gardens, actually part of the Arboretum. And I'm here with Bernadette Clark, who is our plant trials coordinator here and has been doing this just for a few years.
A few more than you.
Yeah, a few more than me. But she organizes this. She gets with the companies, and you'll hear a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But I just wanted to introduce Bernadette because we don't see her as often as you see me. And anyways, Bernadette's going to tell us a bit about the history of the trials. And then we're going to go out into the trials and just make some comments about things that we found interesting this year.
Thank you, Tim. And thank you all for joining us today. Here at the JC Raulston Arboretum, the trial gardens are part of the All-America Selection. It's a national program, organization that does trial evaluations across the U.S. We are one of about 45 sites across the U.S. and Canada that participate in this program. All 45 sites will receive the same plant material in one growing season, and we all grow it out. And these experimental lines are given a wealth of information over that one growing season, because our growing season here will be different than, say, someone in the Pacific Northwest or someone that's in Texas and so forth. Anyway, all this information then is compiled by the All-America Selection people and given to the various companies that have these entries in our garden. But here we also take other companies' entries of plant material they'd like to see how it performs in this area of the Southeast. And all that information, I take weekly data on it, and that information is also compiled at the end of the season, and the report is put out on the JC Raulston website. So anyone has access to it, whether you're the breeder, the company, or a homeowner. We all have access to that wonderful information. I do want to start out by telling you that all the plant material that's here in the trials, I'm very particular. I like to have signs. You need signage to tell people what we have, so you know what to request when you're at a garden center looking for this plant material. On my labels, you'll see I have the top has a location. That's more important to me than to you, but that is necessary for me. The next is the name of the plant. In this case, you can see it's a number. It means it's part of the experimental line, so it does not even have a name as of yet. Underneath, it tells you well, that's part of the name, sorry. And then it tells you what the plant is. Then below that is the scientific name. And the last line of information on the label tells you the source of who is entering this plant into our trials. In this case, you'll see it's the All-America Selections. We're going to walk around today and just show you some highlights of some of the plant material in the gardens. And Tim is going to join me, and we're going to just start walking. So thank you for, as I said, for joining us.
Bernadette and I actually yesterday, we were out here for a field day that we had with the nursery industry around here, actually. And I can see changes since yesterday. It's that drastic here sometimes at this time of the year. We've had some days now in the 90s, and right behind us, that first plant that Bernadette was actually just showing you the label from is a nasturtium. And nasturtiums aren't necessarily the greatest for us in our summers here. So we're actually not going to show you just the good stuff. There are some things that we find out aren't so good stuff for us here. These are a cool season plant, probably much better for the northeastern United States or the Pacific Northwest. Not so much for us here in the Southeast, though I have been super surprised that these have lasted as long as they have, because we didn't have any really terrible weather until like the last 2 weeks here. We've had a very mild late spring, early summer, and now we're finally getting into the real summer. And these are quickly saying it's just too darn hot for us. And so we even have those examples in here. So not everything is perfect. But then behind us, we have the veggies here and as well. But there's three or four main things we do trial here, correct?
Yes, we trial. Well, the companies tell me how they want their plant material evaluated. They can ask to put it in a hanging basket. They can ask to put it in a container or in the ground or any combination of that. We also trial flowering plants, but we also do these edibles as part of the All-America selection trials. And edibles, as everyone knows, is trending very hot. And it continues to do so. And I think part of that is because we have larger houses on smaller pieces of land. And so people can do a pot on their patio with tomatoes, or they're not trying to be the sole source of their food, but to supplement. So as I said, edibles tend to be very popular. But I will add what you said about with the nasturtiums. It's not bad to grow them if you know that they're probably going to peter out early. So you just enjoy them earlier in the season. We didn't get these. When did we start the trials this year? May 9th. May 9th was the first day. So they've been about 2 months in the ground.
So if we could probably plant these, I would plant nasturtiums here probably in March, and we might get a really nice display in early summer, and then they go pitter out.
Right. And we, as I said, we have them in the edibles because they are edible. A lot of people don't think about that, but yes, you can eat the leaves, you can eat the flowers. Oh, there you go, Tim.
Great in a salad.
What's the taste?
It's a little peppery to me.
Exactly. That's the way it's supposed to be. The rains haven't diluted it.
No, and they were perfectly washed off this morning. So.
Okay. Another parameter that the companies get to decide when they send plant material is whether the plant is put in the sun or in the shade. We're now at the shade section of the trials, and we're in front of the begonias. Begonias, as you know, we have also an assortment of different colors and leaf shapes. And we have an interesting series that we want to talk to you today about. It's this hula, sorry, not the TV thing. Hula, like the grass skirt thing, that's put out by Pan America Seed. It's a wonderful begonia.
So if anybody's grown the traditional wax begonias, which say typically much more diminutive than some of the newer hybrid begonias, this is kind of like an intermediate between them. It's kind of a cross between those really tight wax begonias and the dragon wing types, and these now larger growing, like this megawatt series here that is right around us. But these are kind of intermediate in that they stay a little bit lower, but they have the more relaxed look to them to me, and it's a finer look to me. You could use this more in the foreground, while the other begonias that we have in this bed are actually taller growing. They'll top out probably at 18 inches. While these are only 6 inches right now, but I'm going to say maybe 8 to 10 inches on these once they
they're staying very tidy, very tight and mounded.
The flowers are a bit smaller, but they're very profuse.
Yes.
And I like this. This is a green-leafed one with a red blush to it. And there's white ones. There's a pink one, I believe, down here as well.
They call it red and white, but it's
a red and white mix that we have. And there are some options in that. But I'm actually really impressed with this. This is a little bit different. It doesn't look, like I said, like that wax begonia that we've been growing for the last 100 years. Probably.
Right. But we also have the sun begonias as well, the big series. So they don't have to only be under the shade.
Yeah, but most of these I think are pretty tolerant of whatever conditions you give them, which is a great reason to grow begonias. They don't care, sun or shade.
Another shade-loving plant is the Impatiens. And back in about 2008, you may remember that we had a problem with downy mildew, and it took out all of the Impatiens walleriana. and that was the standard shade plant for most commercial operations as well as for homeowners. And it took several years, but the companies have been able to do the genetics and get different series that can tolerate the downy mildew. They can still get it, but they tolerate it better. They've also done a lot of crossing with the New Guinea impatiens, as well as, so there's a lot of back crossing and things that are going on. So the genetics have changed. They've come more to this that looks like, it's a hybrid, so it looks like the New Guinea impatiens, but it is still listed as just a straight impatiens. But I'm just glad to see them back being offered, because I think impatiens play a very important role in the landscape, the variety of colors as well.
So we're back here in the container, the sun containers actually, and we're looking at some of the celoseas here. Bernadette has made some observations and has gotten some information from some of the growers about a specific one here, and we just have some thoughts about what that might be for the future of how we grow these.
This year, I received cultural information from the company that wanted us to grow. This is called Dragon's Breath. They said that I needed to, from the moment I sowed the seeds, put it under long days, which means it has to be more than 12 hours of daylight. So I start sowing these much earlier than we have 12 hours. So I had to put them under lights, or you just have to break that cycle so it could be just lighted at night for a couple of hours. It doesn't have to stay lit all night. Anyway, as you can see, there's such a dramatic difference between this Dragon's Breath and other types of the celosea we have here. I'm not really sure if the other celoseas would benefit from having those long days as well. So the picture says it all. Here.
And I think that's great information, because for homeowners, they may try to grow these and not realize what's going wrong. Why are my plants stunted? And this might be a perfect, example for that. And so easily at home, if you don't want to have to worry about the day length, we need to get these out early, but you aren't as much on a schedule as we are, but you can start your seeds a little bit after the spring equinox, and you're going to get that naturally long day, which should, I would think, encourage that good growth that you're going to get and keep it from going straight to flower.
Well, I guess I should tell them what's supposed to happen. So if we didn't, apparently the plant will only get about 2 or 3 inches tall, would set flower, and that would be it. So all you would have is basically your thumb there with some flower at the top of it, and that's it. So by putting it under the light, you can see what's happening. Yeah,
we've gotten great uniformity on that one. The others, which had the traditional sowing, they look good, but they are not as uniform by any means.
Not as bulked up and not as beautiful,
So now we're looking at, we're actually in some of the in-ground plantings here again. And this is, we're in the sun, and this is the Verbena section. And you might see some variation here. I'm not sure exactly what is on camera at the moment, but we have the spreading Verbenas, which are actually no longer Verbenas, but glandularias, to be a little bit on the confusing side. And then we have the still Verbena, the Verbena bonariensis over here, which is one of the upright ones. And this is a selection called Vanity. Traditionally, the Verbena bonariensis have been rather tall growing.
All very open and airy.
The last couple of years, we've been getting some really nice new selections that only top out at about 24 inches instead of 4 to 5 feet.
Right. And they've managed to keep the proportion, the scale of the plant as they brought it down, which I think is lost in a lot of this, making some of these varieties compact. So I really have enjoyed the Vanity. I like the color, the shade of purple on it as well. It's all around, it's one of my favorites.
The Verbena bonariensis are great because later on the birds love to eat the seeds on this one, the goldfinches in particular, and also the butterflies are over this typically. It's overcast right now, so our butterflies aren't out, but the bees are starting to get a little bit active on this right now. But yeah, this Verbena bonariensis Vanity is a really good one for us, and we're really enjoying that one.
As Tim mentioned earlier, we have some plants that do well, and we also have some surprises in the garden. One of them this season is the osteospermum, the sparkler daisy. Tim is in the bed. He can show you the plant there. Usually the osteospermums are gone by this time. The heat and the humidity has
taken them out.
Yeah, taken a toll.
This is one, it's Ostacade aurora. So this is a new one for us this year, I think.
It is, and beautiful
It's
color.
been really compact. I do love this color. But again, like I was saying earlier, when we were looking at nasturtiums and pots, which are right next to me again, and are starting to go downhill, these are one of those plants that likes a cooler summer. And we've had mild up until a week or so ago, but these have held up really well, and lots of fairly decent bud set on here. I am noticing, and again, this wasn't here yesterday, if I remember right, there is a little bit of senescence here going, so I'm thinking they are not liking the 95 degrees that we had the last couple days.
Yeah.
But they have held on way better than what we've had in previous years. So these may hold on longer than I even expect. So it's just one to keep an eye on. If you do get out here, come out and see this osteospermum and see if it makes it through our summer. If they make it through our summers, these can be really good in our falls. And that is a benefit of these. If they make it, we sometimes have a really good display in the fall when it's cooler, which is much more to their liking.
Well, historically, they've been the shoulder seasons, either
Yes.
in the spring or in the fall. So it'd be wonderful if they've been able to breed into them.
Even
a
if they
little bit
keep them
more.
alive through the summer, that they just stay green through the summer and then flower in the fall for
It'd be
us.
just short of a miracle, but it'd be nice. It would be nice. I love the shade on it.
Yes.
And that's a unique shade for the.
We were saying it matched both Bernadette's shirt and my shirt. So there's color compliments in there.
Yeah. We're now over at the sweet potato area of the in-ground trials. Here at North Carolina State University, we have a very extensive research program in the horticulture science department on sweet potatoes. They do both ornamentals as well as the edibles of the sweet potatoes. Matter of fact, the edible part was what started the program, and ornamental.
They found that there were some oddball ones that were pretty as plants.
Right, and people wanted them. This year, we have something here out in the trials. It's actually the second year we've had it. It's a trellising. So yes, I said trellising, a naturally trellising sweet potato. As you can see here at the very end, the chartreuse, it's a part of their series called Sweet Caroline. It's Sweet Caroline upside, I believe. Yeah, upside key lime. The chartreuse one is not as vigorous as the darker leafed one we have. So when you're out here, make sure you look at both of the teepees that we have. But you can see on there the natural vining. They start twirling on each other if there's nothing else there. But eventually, if they find anything to crawl, they will start up at this whole teepee.
We've only had it in for a little over 2 weeks, I think, the teepee.
The teepee, yeah. The teepee's only been up for about 2 weeks. But by the end of probably August, I would say most of that, if not all of it, will be covered. The black one will cover the entire thing.
So that'd be great for a screening in a small
Sure.
a landscape.
A nice green screen, sure.
Or blend it in there with something else.
Right,
So.
right. And then beside it, we have another favorite of mine, which is Sweet Caroline Sweetheart Mahogany, another one out of the North Carolina State University sweet potato breeding program. I love that rich red color in the leaves, and apparently with the back crosses and things, they've been able to achieve that color. And
It's not that. I mean, I viewed the old original one was blacky, and I like that, but it was too dark.
It's very dark.
And
yeah.
the other thing, and
I like the leaf shape.
The leaf shape's good on this, and they've gotten different leaf shapes. That's some other things with the sweet potatoes. But they've also, if you're here in the Southeast anyways, sweet potatoes can be a little bit overly vigorous. That's another thing they've actually done, is to reduce the vigor of them so they don't take over your entire garden. But because a little goes a long ways when it comes with a sweet potato. Right,
Well, if you have a bank you need to cover,
they are great
for erosion control.
Yeah. But yeah, this is a spectacular one. And the new growth is really nice. It still has some of the gold tones in it, but then it quickly turns to a deep mahogany color, as it's
Hence
being
the
called.
name.
So.
Yep.
Okay, now we're at a totally different group of plants here, and these are becoming more popular the last couple years because I don't remember them even 5 or 10 years ago. It's been the last probably 3 to 4 years that we've gotten some of these, but these are some bidens. These are little daisies. They're related to the cosmos, which is much more familiar, and coreopsis. Some of them are actually, we have native ones that are weeds, but these are some of the really pretty ones. And the last few years, we've been having some smaller ones, like over here. I don't know if Alexander can get this one for us, but this campfire flame, which is a really tight, love the color of it. It's an orangey red on the outside with a gold bars in the middle. And it's very tight. Perfect one actually for containers is the way I look at it. Mm-hmm. It's an adorable little thing. And then you step it up a little bit and we have this blazing star, which has a golden yellow flower with, or petals with red splash down the middle of each individual petal.
Creates a nice little star.
Great contrast,
yeah. Blazing star.
But my favorite this year is this new one, Campfire Marshmallow. It's a bit bigger than either of the other two, very vigorous, but it's beautiful white flowers on this one.
It's clear.
Yes, it's clear.
Clean white.
Yes.
Very nice.
And I don't know, yesterday, did you notice that there were, right now there aren't, but yesterday the white one was covered in bees.
Right.
And the yellow ones and orange ones actually didn't have any on them.
Nothing there, or the wayward one on the way to the white.
So, but that, I mean, this I see, you can fill a bed with these. You know, there's 7 plants actually in here in these rows, and that one fills up probably 3 times as much as the next one. So it's a great filler plant, and it'll be one to complement just about anything.
Right, and it's covered with those white flowers, so I think that's part of the beauty of it, part of the show of it. You see it, and it'd be a nice one to complement other colors in your garden. It's just a really tough little plant.
And traditionally, the bidens have been on the orange and yellow shades, so this gives you something you can cool down, but still have a nice biden. And it's just a heavy bloomer all summer long for us.
For those of you that live locally, we'd love to have you come join us on August 8th. It's the second Tuesday in August. That's when we do our evening stroll. It's a program that allows people to come in the evening hours here at the JC Raulston Arboretum. And in August, our focus will be on edible plants. And we'll have an assortment of different fruit from the different plants that we have out here, and people get a chance to try them. So in front of me, I have a fennel with this one is being grown actually for the tuber that are the form.
Bulbous base on that one?
Yeah, that's what it's used for. But you can still use the tops for garnish and to eat. It tastes very nicely. We have a lemon basil, and then beside it, we have Candlefire. Candlefire. I have a problem with that name. Sorry. And it has that beautiful red stem, so it can be an ornamental as well as an edible.
And going back to that, the fennel to me is, I love that texture.
Yes.
And I would use that as an ornamental any day too.
Right. So. Right. And that just shows you how you don't have to have just a flower garden. You can mix things up in your yard. You can do edibles. You can do grasses. You can do
you just have it integrated in there and have a whole mix.
It's your yard, your choice of what you'd like to do.
HOA doesn't get a...
Oh, true. But anyway, just know August 8th, the second Tuesday in August, that's going to be our evening stroll. The focus of it will be edibles. So you'll get a chance to try. If there's okra available, you're more than welcome to try that. We'll have tomatoes, eggplant, peppers. Okay. At the Professional Landscape Field Day, the best to show was this plant right here. It's a hibiscus. It's an entry by All America Selection in the perennials. It is just a number. It is not even available yet. As you can see, it's just the number that's assigned to it by All America Selection. We don't know the company that's putting this in. We just know that it is a showstopper. This was the industry's favorite plant by far of all the plant material that was out here. You can look at this, look at the wonderful overlapping pattern of the petals here. There are lots and lots of blooms that are coming. Of course, it hasn't been blooming, but for the last, is it maybe 2 weeks?
2 weeks,
3 weeks?
but you have that foliage.
Oh, but the foliage, absolutely. The foliage is stunning in itself. And then when you add this beautiful pink shade with the dark dark red veins. It's just stunning.
There's really good substance to these. But going back to where we're at actually now in the trials, we've entered a different part of it. We're in the actual perennial trials now that we've been doing here at the garden. And so this isn't one that was just planted a month ago. This was one that was planted May of last year.
Yes, 21. Is
this from that long ago?
It's 2 years. Yep, it's been 2 full years.
I don't think it hasn't been that long.
Yep.
Has it?
Yep.
Okay. Anyways, but anyways, these have just really taken off, and they're spectacular this year. We've been trialing a lot of different new hardy hibiscus, and this one is impressing me for its compactness and the intensity of the color of the foliage. And like you said, it's just only been flowering for 2 weeks, but we've had this foliage for a month and a half, 2 months, coming on. So
hibiscus emerges later in the season, so don't start to worry if you're growing hibiscus and they're not out.
These are fully hardy into probably zone 5, if not even zone 4. So these are super easy to grow. I've been growing hibiscus for over 30 years. Oh, actually probably 35 years. Maybe 40. Many years. But so anyways, that is truly one of our favorites. And next to me now, there's another one, which I find really nice. This is Nymphophea glow stick, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. And this is one that was an entry from Darwin perennials. But anyways, this has been flowering for a little over a month, I'd say right now. You can see all the spent flower stalks on here already, but there are new ones down in here coming up. It's a good repeat flowering one. We have had some other Nymphotheas that are supposed to be repeat, and they don't repeat as much as this one has been doing. And this one is really impressing me. I like Nymphotheas too. They're great cut flowers. And hummingbirds do like these too. So a great pollinator plant in that sense. So, but gives you a little bit different texture there. But again, these are this is a 2022 entry here. So
okay. And here at our last stop in the trials, we're at the Echinacea, the cone flowers, and as you can see by your picture, there are quite a few of them.
This is the biggest trial I think we've had.
Ever had.
Especially in the perennials. I know we may have gotten it in petunias or in geraniums or something like that, but not in the perennials.
Correct.
And there's, I believe, 17 new ones this year. And so next year will be a real test to see who is still here, survived their first year, and what they look like. But these were all just planted again a month and a half or 2 months ago now. They're already putting on a decent show.
A lot of them are sizing up, and that'll help carry them through as well to next year. You'll also notice you have single flowers as well as doubles.
Yep.
And we were talking with the people yesterday saying how the singles tend to have more of your pollinators because it gives them a flatter surface when they come.
There's nothing impeding them actually getting into that nectar in there. It's all on the surface for them, so they can get to it.
And wide variety of colors.
They're going to be. I mean, these would be great cut flowers for anybody in your yard who wants to grow some flowers in your yard. But again, the colors, the intensities. Considering, I remember in the 80s and early 90s, the only thing we had were white and pink.
Right.
And we have oranges and pure whites and rosy tone. I mean, that is warm tones, not just the pink tones. And you have bicolors. So there's a lot of variation in these now. But we're going to see how the variation is on hardiness in the lands or in our gardens here. So by testing all 17 of these,
and they're pretty tough plants.
They are.
Hopefully, we'll have most of them pull through next year.
Getting them through that first year, and then they're not long-lived typically in the landscape. So if you do have them and they fizzle out after 3 to 5 years, it's not the end of the world. It's nothing you did, but that's typical for them. But these we will be able to see at least their prime years.
So please, when you get an opportunity, come on out and enjoy the gardens with us. We'd love to see you. And if you see us out here, ask away. We'll answer any questions.
Well, that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to make, and I hope it was as much fun to watch as it was to make. So we did have one question that came in, Bernadette, so far, and I will remind you that we are here to answer questions. If you have any questions, you may go ahead and drop them in the chat. So the question was asked, who provides the money for the soil, pots, and staff?
The soil is provided by a company called Old Castle. Old Castle donates it actually to the Horticulture Science Department, and I'm able to use that. And the pots, as y'all know, we recycle and reuse until there's no life left in things. But for the inserts, the cell packs, we purchase those from a local company. And there was one other thing they asked about.
The staff.
Oh, the staff? It's me and, for the most part, a lot of very dedicated volunteers that keep the place looking at the level that it does.
Wonderful. Okie dokie. So, someone asked, can you tell us about planting preparation, fertilization, and irrigation in the trial beds?
Okay, easiest thing on their irrigation. We'll start with that. We have inline or pop-ups water heads in the garden. Those are done automated, so it's on a regular schedule. So if we don't get any rain, and sometimes, unfortunately, when we do get rain, the irrigation will still come on unless we physically turn it off. Tell me again, what were the others?
The planting preparation.
The biggest thing probably, so I start sowing seeds in January, and from January weekly on till the middle end of March, I'll be sowing seeds in the greenhouse. And the vegetative plugs, when they come in, they get potted up into smaller containers. The organization for how they're laid out is done later in the season. It's based on once I get all of the plant material and know it's here, I can start developing that. And I basically do that. And then there again, it's the dedicated volunteers that, and one day we plant everything that y'all have seen shown today. That gets planted in one day's time. But it does take a lot of organization in the background, in that you have to assign plants. You've got to have everything well labeled, and no one is allowed to plant anything until Tim and I go through and we've verified that what is in that spot is actually that plant material, because that all ties into my ratings. And if I have the wrong plant in the wrong place, the company gets the wrong data, and we can't have that happen.
No, not even a little bit. And fertilization, do we have the same fertilization regimen for all of the plants, or does everybody get their own specific treatment?
Unfortunately, everything is treated the same, because you have to have certain parameters that are the same, so that you can definitely see that it's the plant. But with that said, there is I use a dosatron, and I apply a liquid fertilizer, 20-20-20, around each of the plants within the first week to 2 weeks after we've planted. We planted on May 9th, as we said earlier on here. So I took a vacation shortly thereafter, so I only was able to use the dosatron once, but typically it's twice. It's a liquid feed. That helps settle them in and gives them that nice little jump start. And then it's over the top with calcium nitrate. It's a dry prill that I can use, and use like a little hopper, a little whirligig to put that out.
Sure. How often?
Well, we have very fertile soils here, and that's the reason why for you at home you need to take a soil sample, because we have found I do not need to do it like I used to, which was every 6 to 8 weeks I was putting out fertilizer. That's way too much. We don't need that. So based on past soil tests, I do that usually every year to 2 years.
Awesome. Okie dokie. Someone says, can you tell us what edibles you're trialing this year?
Sure. We have, from the All America selections, we have eggplants, we've got basil, different kinds of peppers. We have everything from the chili peppers down to they call them the lunchbox, or the little snack ones you get in the store, in the bags. The little ones. We have tomatoes, obviously, lots of different tomatoes, everything from the slicers to they're not cherries. They're more of a
little bigger than the cherries.
They're like sorry, I've got to fly. There's they're like a pear, because they're longer and they're indented in the middle.
Ooh, okay.
So, and very good flavor on that one.
Okay.
We have some lemon basil as well.
Yeah, you do.
So we have that, and as you saw in there, we have the fennel.
Yeah.
And we have the okra. So there's a variety of things. So come on out. We'd love for you. The nasturtiums, I think, will not be here for the edible night, but if there are some in the shade, I'll bring them out, because I can't remember if we talked about the flavor of them. It's a peppery flavor. So for those of you that haven't tried it, come on out. We'd love to have you and and enjoy with us.
And off the top of your head, do you remember what day that is?
Sure do.
Nice.
It's August 8th.
Beautiful.
From 4 to 7:30, I believe.
Yeah, and those evening garden strolls are always fun, and another layer of fun to it where you get to try brand new fruits and vegetables. It's going to be great. So make sure you put that on your calendar, definitely.
Well, I'm hoping on the hoop house or the hoop structure out here that the moonvine is doing well, because then I want people to come out, because the moonflower only flowers late afternoon and into the evening. So those people that are here for the evening stroll will be able to enjoy it. It has a lovely fragrance, but that's only if the bunnies will leave it alone and let it grow.
Right. Those rascally wabbits.
Oh, yes. Yes. That's why I love the hawk and the coyote and everything else that will take out the rabbits.
Right. Okay. Someone's asking, what about deadheading? Do you do any sort of post-planting treatment to them?
We don't. And part of that's just the limitation on time. But most of these things would benefit if in your own yard to do that. I've deadheaded recently the geraniums. Geraniums are very much one of those that will benefit from deadheading. But a lot of these other things out here, I think we would have in the perennials as well. We would have a second flush of flowers.
Sure. Very cool. Someone's asking, do you rotate different species to prevent disease buildup in the soils, or is this rarely a problem?
We do have disease problems in the soils. So I do rotate plants around. With that said, I can't say that I don't put something back in within maybe 3 years or 2 years. I try or 3 years would be it. I try to do that, but some areas, because of the requirement of a plant, like we've got some wetter spots out in the trials, so I know certain plant material that will handle those wetter spots. I try and put the same thing in those areas, but for the most part, it's always a good practice to rotate.
Sure. Totally. Okay. Well, that looks like that's all the questions we have in the chat. So thank you so much, Bernadette.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you so much for coordinating these trials so that our garden is absolutely full of color this time of year, first off. And then thank you for going around with us Friday to film this segment.
Well, hopefully people enjoyed it, because as I said, the light has always been an issue, and that's why we're trying something different this year. And hopefully they'll appreciate your editing and everything as well to get good pictures. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Bernadette. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. We will be back next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. If I'm not mistaken, we're going to be doing garden conversations with Ann Spafford, I believe. Is that right? That sounds right. Garden conversations with Ann Spafford. So please join us for that. We'll see you all next time. Y'all take care.